all right. I'll quit stalling. I couldn't hang around the monetization and perks no one uses forever. Eventually, I was going to have to grit my teeth, knock back the necessary amount of edibles needed to not want to stick shards of glass on my toenails while playing this killer, and actually hunker down and make this video. But honestly, this video had to be made. All I ever see is people saying, the only way to fix Hillbilly is to remove overheat. If we just remove overheat, he'll be good again and rise to his former glory. But that's not the only thing, is it? You all know it to be true. Billy Maines especially, right? All 5 of you understand me, don't you? Playing Hillbilly requires patience and mental fortitude of a monk. Hours upon hours of 4-man escapes and survivors BMing you because they managed to escape until you finally claw your way through learning the texts that are not bonuses, but necessities to playing the character. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Hillbilly, then. The Hillbilly's, or Billy for short, power is the chainsaw sprint. You hold down the right click, and when the meter gets full, Billy gets a rocket up his ass and goes flying in a straight line until you either let go, hit a survivor, wall, or small twig on one of these fucking things on the Eerie of Cox map. Hitting a survivor instantly knocks them down, and hitting a wall or the aforementioned twig will stun Billy for a period just long enough for you to contemplate uninstalling this game, before finally deciding that hitting your PC with a mallet would be slightly faster. The chainsaw sprint works off of a ramping, de-ramping turning system. When first used, the slightest movement of your mouse will send Billy hurling at a 90-degree angle into the nearest wall, and after like 0.2 seconds, the turning sensitivity becomes just enough to make you think you'll catch a survivor, but oh no, they press their D key one time and are now out of range. You might be thinking, oh, Kaiser, that's okay. I'll just feather the chainsaw until I'm so close to the survivor I can smell the BO coming from them sweating all game. And I'll release it for an insta-down. Easy peasy. But hold on there, Slick. Behavior wanted to make sure everyone buys Bubba so they could justify all of the money they spent on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre license. So unlike Bubba, you don't get to feather your chainsaw until the perfect moment. Instead, Hillbilly has an overheat meter. When this thing is full, Billy cannot use the chainsaw until it's over. And isn't that just grand? Okay, so that's the power. And normally this is the point where I do strengths and weaknesses, but I pretty much covered all of the weaknesses in the power's description, and you might think it's to save time, but in reality it's so that I can talk about what all of the weaknesses mean. But before that, the one thing I wasn't able to smoothly segue into was the fact that the hitbox on the chainsaw sprint is, well, kinda awful. Here's what I mean. When you release Billy's chainsaw sprint, there is an animation of Billy swinging the chainsaw downwards. This looks like you can flick your camera in a direction and down someone on the side of you, but you can't, even if the chainsaw goes right through them. This is because the hitbox of the chainsaw stays locked in front of you, so even if you move your camera, the hitbox doesn't move with you. At least this is my theory for why it doesn't work. I don't know. I'm not a data miner. I can't grab hitboxes to show you. Anyway, on to the big problem. The biggest one of them all, and it's something I mentioned in the start briefly. Do you, my wonderful viewers, know what the terms skill floor and skill ceiling mean? Some of you might have heard these phrases tossed around in gaming before. Essentially, the two terms refer to skill versus value levels of characters, powers, items, etc. in video games. The skill floor refers to the minimum amount of skill needed to get any kind of value out of the character. For example, Trapper, Bubba, and Wraith all have relatively low skill floors. Their powers are not only easy to understand and grasp, but they're also easy to use effectively. Conversely, killers like Blight, Nurse, and Spirit all have high skill floors. Powers that are simple on the surface, but once you try to use them, you learn how much effort it takes to actually get value out of them. The skill ceiling is how much potential value a character has. It's the cap, you see. Trapper, for example, has a relatively low skill ceiling. The greatest Trapper main in the world is not going to get as much value out of his power as the greatest Nurse main will get out of hers, because there's only so much that the Trapper can accomplish. Meanwhile, the Nurse has a skill ceiling that, to be honest, is kind of unreachable. Her potential is near limitless and might even be the highest in the game, if we're being honest with ourselves. So what does all this mean for our favorite monstrous boy toy that keeps showing up on my Reddit feed with an impossibly large throbbing cock? Billy's skill floor and his skill ceiling are practically one and the same. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that in order to use Billy effectively, you have to put in work, put in hours. We get hungry, we devour our own foot because it's slightly easier than learning this limping dope of a killer. Billy has a wide variety of techs, some killed off by behavior for the crime of being useful, and in general, these techs are the only way to effectively play the character. Without them, he's an M1 killer with an ability to get across Coquin Farms and maybe Ormond Resort in a flash. Most of the maps have too much shit in the way to use the power as a sole movement ability, and if you're in an indoor map, you might as well stand in a corner and think about your crimes for picking this fucking killer. So unlike the Trapper video, where the goal was to bring his power level up and make him an actually viable pick, the goal for Billy is to lower the skill floor, make him easier to use, and ultimately provide a gateway into becoming a good Billy player. Step 1. Remove overheat. Yes, I know I lambasted this in the beginning, but it's not entirely wrong. The overheat mechanic makes no fucking sense, especially given the fact that Bubba, a character with a much easier to use and abuse insta-down, doesn't have one. You can feather the chainsaw in front of a dangling fang on the hook until your mom calls you for dinner, or until you have to end stream if your name is Spookin' Jukes. But for whatever reason, Billy's already difficult power is made even more difficult to use, so fucking get rid of it. Step 2. Improve the turning rate. Billy mains have learned how to use that initial 1,000,000,000% sensitivity at the very beginning of the chainsaw sprint to make it insta-corner turns and kill unsuspecting survivors trying to loop Shaq, the filthy window door looping fucks. And that's great, and I think we should keep it that way, but the turn speed of the rest of the sprint needs to be better. I was thinking something like Reinhardt's pen from Overwatch, a gradual but manageable curve that makes it to where I can track the damn survivor instead of them just taking a step to the left and flipping me off as I speed into a nearby wall like I'm a fucking Looney Tunes character. Step 3. Fix the chainsaw hitbox problem. If I spin my camera, I should kill anyone caught by the animation. Next, let's take a look at Billy's add-ons. I think for the most part, all of these are fine. They all do very specific jobs, and with improvements I want to make to Billy's power, they all fit kind of nicely. The red ones are my only problem, and I hate that they have to be paired together. I'm going to do a video about this in the future, but iridescent add-ons in this game tend to be either incredibly weak or way too fucking strong. I actually really prefer the design where the iridescent add-ons can work in combination with other add-ons, but they can also work really well together. Something like Huntress's or Wraith's iridescent add-ons are kind of the balance that I like to see. So let's fix Billy's iridescent add-on. For the motor, chainsaw is now always silent map wide. And for the brick, you continue your chainsaw sprint after hitting a survivor. After a survivor is downed, the next survivor you hit will be inflicted with deep wound and end the chainsaw sprint. If you hit a generator with the chainsaw sprint, it will cause a 1.5% loss of progress and will begin to regress. Now the add-ons can be used in tandem with each other for sneaky insta-downs / gen regressions, and they work independently from each other to not feel like a waste of fucking time. Overall, Hillbilly should be a fun character. There's no reason he should be so difficult to learn and playing him shouldn't feel like a punishment. I hope behavior does something soon to fix this problem, but I want to know what you guys think. Be sure to let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed. Throw a like on the video, as that really helps me out in the algorithms, and if you want to see me play Dead by Daylight live, and even have some discussions with me about this or any of my other videos or future videos, you can follow me on Twitch, join us in the Discord, both linked in the description, and I am always down to talk with you guys and members of my community. Other than that, I hope you guys all have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.